Hello, this is Nick with NP Gunsmith and Firearms. I'm just going to go over quick trigger work on a 1911 and break down what we're actually looking for. Now, we're going to clean up the trigger components, and when I say that, it's pretty much anything that has to do with firing. So we got our trigger here, okay, and we got our little leaf spring. I call it a leaf spring. It would sit about here, like so, right on that trigger bow. Our sear and disconnector are right here, okay? They kind of ride up in here like this. And then our hammer, which, works along with the sear and the mainspring housing. But we're not going to worry about the mainspring housing, it's here. And then your trigger bolt rides inside the frame here. So we're going to clean up the trigger feel on this. And when I say feel, it's how it feels in the gun. It's going to be, we want it to be nice and smooth, crisp, and it'll essentially lighten the trigger pull a little bit. But you got to be careful. You got to do this. It's a patience game. You take off a little bit at a time, test it, make sure you get it where you want, because you want it to be safe. You don't want to take too much off the sear and the hammer, because when they mate, they make it's a positive, I'm losing my words, positive connection here, okay? That is the safest connection you're going to get there. We can see that. And if you take too much off, if you make that a negative, it's unsafe. Your firearm can essentially go off just with a tap if you got a negative angle. That's what I'm looking for. You can go for a neutral angle, which gives you the safety and a little bit more better performance. So we're going to be real careful when we clean up the sear and the hammer. You also got to clean up in the frame where the trigger rides. Right in here, we can see those grooves in there. They're kind of right there. You can use a trigger stone to do that. I'll show you what that is. Just going to do this. This is just a quick video. I'm not going to do the whole thing in here. This is a trigger stone. It is designed. It is the exact same diameter as those grooves inside the frame. You just put in there, and it'll smooth out the edges, the rough spots, and the finish. Okay. That'll help get that trigger slide smoother in the frame. Like I said, you can do this a little bit at a time. And here it's not so critical because this trigger stone ain't going to take out a bunch. But when you get to the sear, the disconnector, you got to be careful. I'm going to just do part of the sear. I'm going to polish up back here. Okay. This is a Arkansas hard stone. Just polish it up, and I'll show you what it's going to look like in a second. Nice and easy, nothing crazy. But overall, we're going to be looking for a nice, crisp trigger feel, smooth. You can see on the back side of the disconnector it's starting to polish it down, okay, and smooth it out. That's what we want to see. It's a big patience game. We're going to do a little. Okay, and then you want to do both sides of the connector. You see that rides in the slide. Now I continue this process until I get this to where I want them to be. Like I said, I'm not going to do the whole thing on this video. I just don't have enough time to put it all in one video, but that's the process behind this. You want to make sure you keep your angles the way they're supposed to be. You just polish them up, making everything nice and smooth, so when these components interact with each other, there's less friction there. Everything's going to glide together the way it should. You're going to have a nice, smooth, crisp trigger. And when we get to the sear, you got to be real careful on that angle. You just want to polish it up real quick. You don't want to overdo the sear, because then you're going to make your firearm unsafe. And that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want it to run away. You don't want it to go off when you drop it. You want everything to work. You just want it to work better. So, I'm going to clean up this part of the hammer. The sear rides in. You're just looking to take out all those imperfections from machining, from the finish, all the little grooves that we can't see. You want to use solid stones. You don't want to put grooves, work grooves into it. That can happen if you're trying to do this with holding paper with your finger. As you can see, maybe that's starting to polish up real easy, real nice right there. Okay, so that's pretty much the gist. I'll go through, clean up the trigger bow, make that smooth. I'll finish polishing these components. Then I'll do the feed ramp. I'll show you a separate video about polishing the feed ramp. Before we get into that, on the 1911s, the feed ramp is actually two components, right? It's part of your barrel and part of your frame. So when your barrel and frame interact together, as you can see, the feed ramp it's part of both. You got a little bit on the barrel and a little bit of the frame. So we're going to polish those up and make those nice and smooth. So that'll be in a whole different video I'll do for you. And then the overall goal is to get this firearm to perform at a different level. You don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a firearm to make it work, perform the way you want it to. The gun doesn't make the shooter makes the gun. So you can get a firearm, spend $500-600 on a quality firearm, and with a little bit of work you could make it perform just as well as those ones that cost a couple grand. So it just takes time and effort to do it, but like I said, you don't need to spend a fortune to have a quality shooting firearm. You just have to put in a little bit of effort to make it that way. But that's the gist behind it. You want to take your time when you're polishing these components, especially when you get to your hammer and sear. You don't want to overdo it. You want your positive angle or neutral angle in the sear so you can keep it safe. So you don't, as soon as you get in a negative, which is about when it's doing this, that sear isn't really engaging that hammer, so you're not safe at that moment. So that's about it. I'm going to finish this up, and then I'll come back and I'll do a whole separate video about polishing the feed ramp so you can see how that's done. But I'll hit all these components with the hardstone and everything, and then I'll finish it up with some metal polish. Okay, metal polish on it with a Dremel works the best. Get some polishing bits, clean everything up real nice, and it'll be a lot smoother trigger. So that's all. Thank you.